Hi, I'm Don Mooers and welcome to Montgomery Week in Review. The Madison House Autism Foundation has sponsored an art show to celebrate Autism Month. JaLynn Prince, the founder of the foundation, is here to tell us all the details. The Nighttime Economy Task Force has completed its report to the county executive and is ready to see its recommendations be placed into action. Lily Chi, who's the liaison to this as the Director of Special Projects for the County Executive, is here to tell us all about the task force's recommendations and what we can expect. Free to play is now dominating new games at all of our mobile devices. Aaron Overton from Heatherstone.com is here to tell us about these games and how free-for-all or free games can actually make a profit for their developers. April 22nd, 2014 is the second day in the life of Montgomery County, and it's coming up fast. Merlyn Reineke, Executive Director of this station, of this media conglomerate, Montgomery Community Media, sponsoring this day, and he's here to tell us how all of us can get involved and how all of what his organization is doing to get prepared for this big day. JaLynn, thank you very much for coming back.
Well, thank you. I'm delighted to be here.
Autism Month is so important, and especially, I think, for adults.
Yes, and it's important to shine a light on the fact that autistic children grow to be autistic adults. Mm-hmm. And we're here, especially during this month, in trying to celebrate the abilities and the things that many autistic individuals bring into our everyday lives.
You've got an art show.
We do. It's in cooperation with the Universities of Shady Grove,
mm-hmm.
and is housed in their library.
Okay.
And we have some...
You've got some show and tell here.
Yeah, some show and tell. This is Through Our Eyes,
right.
is the name of the exhibition. We have 40 artists, all on the autism spectrum, from
okay.
mild to severe
okay.
autism,
wow.
and some incredible works of art.
Okay.
Everybody that, from somebody who is savant in art,
mm-hmm.
into people who have very few, if any, verbal capabilities.
So, now, we've talked about this before. Mm-hmm. It's the autism spectrum.
It
is what we're talking about here when you discuss this. What is the autism spectrum?
The autism spectrum, if you look at it like a large umbrella mm-hmm. with different segments under it,
okay.
There are different ranges of abilities. There are different abilities within people.
Right.
There's no two people that are just alike on the autism spectrum.
Okay.
But we are working with those that are 21 and over on the spectrum.
But
That's
go from I would say mild to severely.
Mild to severe,
right.
and we're finding that there are many different types of autisms,
okay.
and
okay.
not just a singular type of autism.
Well, there was a Asperger's syndrome was
mm-hmm.
I guess recently reclassified. How does that fit into this whole picture?
That comes under the umbrella of autism in a more classical fashion right now with the DSM-5.
That's DSM-5, what is
which
that?
Is a designation for psychologists and okay. doctors to diagnose autism. Okay. And those with Asperger's are said to be under the autism okay. umbrella, if you'll go with that analogy. And there are, again, so many talented people in your field, actually.
All right. Well, let's. You brought another piece of art. If you could show this to us and tell us briefly what the story is behind this.
This was started by a woman in Germany by the name of G. Vero. And G. Vero wanted to have the autistic population participate with the neurotypical population. And a couple of years ago, drew this half face mm-hmm. with the challenge that neurotypical people, what we're referred to as, could complete the other mm-hmm. portion. So it's an interactive way of bringing people onto the same page. Mm-hmm. And this has been done at the universities of mm-hmm. Shady Grove. A lot of our county leaders have done this
okay.
project. And at the university, students are doing this all month long, and their artwork is being shown. So we have a collaborative situation that is international.
Is this a component of what we would see at the art show then?
You would see these hanging there because this is how everybody gets to participate. But then you'll see the artwork of those that are on the spectrum, over 40 artists there.
And there's a website as well people can go to see more.
Yes, Madison House Autism .org.
Okay.
Yeah, we had a chance to look at some of the examples that you're sending out. What do you want people to take away from the art show when they go there? What do you want them to walk away from?
I want people to understand that this is a valuable portion of our population. Sometimes we look at autism or talk about autism as being a disability, and I'm afraid far too many people look at it as just a disability. But there's some wonderful gifts and some wonderful things that have come out of this interesting melee. And we're enriched. There's a lot of people in the computer world. There's a lot of people in the artistic world and engineering that are on the spectrum. And if we celebrate what it brings to our everyday lives and understand that it's an enhancement to us as well. And we all have challenges in our life. And if we can understand what those challenges are and work with those challenges and accommodations, because there are wonderful, wonderful benefits too.
What do you find lacking in our community in terms of treatment, diagnosis, and just overall
We have
programs?
some excellent things, especially for those 21 and younger. The school district is doing an excellent job and getting placements, and certainly there's stories of challenge here and there. But I'd say our biggest challenge is having meaningful things for those 21 and over.
Okay.
You get to that cliff, and there's very few things out there. That's why we're in existence.
We've got about 30 seconds left in this
Yes.
segment. What do you want to leave us with? Looking ahead to this art show, to Autism Month, what do you want our viewers to?
The Universities of Shady Grove is making accommodations right now for those on the spectrum. This art show kind of focuses on that. And to be aware of your family members and see the capabilities and abilities of those on the spectrum.
Are we making good progress?
No. Some progress, but not enough.
But we're going to make progress in the
We
future.
are. That's exactly why we're here.
Perfect. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Lily Chi, nice to see you again.
Good to see you, Don.
Been far too long.
I know.
You've been participating in sister cities with China and helping to develop
I organized
this
the
great
trip, and it was very productive. We brought in foreign direct investments, and we enhanced our biotech partnership with China. It's very exciting.
Excellent. But we're not talking about that
Right.
today. We're talking about how Montgomery County should focus and needs to focus on expanding opportunities of our nightlife. Tell us a little bit about this task force and
Sure.
some of the recommendations.
Sure. Thank you for having me today. It's a really exciting topic, and there has been some misunderstandings about that. I think it got sort of mystified when people thought of that. It's only about drinking. It's about young people. It's much more than that. At the end of the day, it's really about vital living for all of our residents. It's about being competitive as a suburban community with our more urban neighborhoods, more urban neighbors like DC and Northern Virginia, in terms of attracting people, visitors, businesses who want more urban walkabilities, urban amenities, want to be able to connect with others, want to have more spontaneous fun. For a community of 1 million people with many different age groups, lifestyles, and cultures, not everyone is here because they have school-age children. You know, we want to capture the populations that are here and make sure we have enough choices for them to enhance their quality of life throughout their lifetime, before they have children after, or don't have
Let me
children.
ask you this. DC is a place, I grew up in this community. Quite frankly, the last thing in the world we ever would want to do would be to go to the burbs during that time. The city is, I mean, that's part of what the city life is all about.
Right.
It seems to me that we would want to compare ourselves with Fairfax more than with DC in this. I mean, I just throw that out, but how are we doing vis-a-vis Fairfax? Is Fairfax facing the same issues? Have they turned into nighttime destination points for young people?
Well, it's an interesting comparison. Actually, if you look at the numbers, we are quite comparable with Fairfax in terms of percentage of young populations in our community. But Fairfax is a very different community in many ways, even though we are quite similar in size. But they focus on different kinds of tools for economic development versus Montgomery County. We are more of a community feel. We're more livable kind of community. They have more dense office complexes, so to speak. And it's different kind of a feeling when you walk around Fairfax. But Northern Virginia overall has become more of a city. And in order to compete in 21st century, you know, and just by the way, 70% of the world's population are going to live in cities by 2050. And in order to compete just regionally, Montgomery County as a suburban community needs to add more city-like elements.
So we've had over the last decade, though, there's been been Rockville Town Center has been built up somewhat,
Right.
and there's still construction going on, like
Right.
blocks from here.
Right.
And then there's Silver
Sprung.
Spring has Silver
Thank you.
Sprung. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, that's
Silver
right.
has sprung.
That's
Yes.
right.
Are
Yeah.
there other kind of like
Yes.
urban
Strathmore.
hotspots
Yeah.
that we're starting to see grow? I mean, I don't really
Yeah.
know what, say, Germantown or
Sure.
Gaithersburg or whatever it might
You
be.
mentioned the 4 of the 5 areas in one
Nailed
breath
it.
that we focus on. So we're looking at 3 kinds of communities or neighborhoods where we can enhance our quality of life and add more vitality. So we start by looking at more established communities like a Bethesda and a Rockville and a Silver Spring. Then we're also looking at emerging like a Germantown. And we're also looking at transitional neighborhoods from old to new, like a Wheaton, which has a very eclectic, dynamic population of different cultures. We want to make sure from millennials to seniors, we have more for everyone.
All right,
Yeah.
let's,
So
before Jill, I want to get in recommendations here, and then we'll come
Yeah.
to you. Real quickly, we've got just
Sure.
about a minute and a half left, so if
Sure.
you could just 30 seconds, then JaLynn will
Right.
jump in.
And so there are a couple of things that are moving forward. One of which is a performing arts facilities license,
Okay.
which would allow them to host special events with some alcohol involved, catering to people of different populations. And we're looking at adding more taxi stands, safe drive home programs.
Okay.
So there are a whole host of arts and entertainment venues, and making it easier for people to establish special events licenses and hosting special events in urban districts. So there are a whole host of things working together between urban districts and the departments to make our urban centers more
Okay.
vibrant.
JaLynn, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Well, when we moved here a number of years ago,
Yeah.
it was hard to go out to dinner in the district and have something open past about 7 or 7:30.
That's right, yeah.
What's happening with, say, after 11 o'clock? Because I know my young children, young professionals,
Right.
like to get together with
That's
their
right.
friends at 11:30 at
Right,
night.
right.
And, is this the type
That's
of
exactly the
situation?
kind of issue we want to tackle. We don't want our urban centers to shut down. For a community of 1 million people, we need to have many choices. We should have more convenience. We should have more venues where people can just bring their book or laptop to read, to learn, to connect with their friends after 9 o'clock. And a friend of mine living in Bethesda, who was in his 60s, said, my wife and I went for a movie and we were really happy afterwards and wanted to find a place to drink, and every place was closed. And that's Bethesda we're talking about. So it's not just the infrastructure you build, but also the events and programmatic initiatives and activities.
All right, well, we'll stay tuned for more on this exciting task force. Thanks, Lou. We'll be right back after these messages.
Yeah.
And we're back. Aaron, welcome back.
Hey, good morning.
We're talking free games, and you're going to explain how people make money.
Yeah, it's a really an interesting concept. I think we've all probably tried at one time or another, especially on our mobile devices, these games, and they're free and they're amazing and they have all kinds of really neat stuff in them. And then I don't know how many people stop and say, how does this ever make money?
Right.
Why are they doing this?
What a nice
How's it going?
service my provider is giving me.
Exactly. And as somebody who's builds intellectual property, I care about the actually getting paid for producing
Yeah.
it part. That's a good part. It encourages more.
And we're in a capitalist country. Country.
That's
You
what
get-
I've heard. Yeah.
Yes, and so innovation and all those things come with making profit.
Right.
How does it work?
Well, it's interesting. The first approach was ad revenue. So
Right.
lots of the first free-to-play games came out, and you never had to pay for them, but you'd be interrupted constantly with another ad. In between, you do a little puzzle, and then there'd be an ad, and then you do another puzzle, and then there'd be an ad. And the trend on this is really changing. It's interesting that it's now about buying extra content. So you get the basics of a game or sometimes a completely playable game that's totally free. But if you want to go faster, if you don't want to have to wait through some now come back in a day and you can do this thing, then you go ahead and you pay a little more. And it's an interesting it's a very interesting trend to it. But the one that people think about probably as the most is
Right.
Candy Crush, right?
Yeah.
It's a huge game. It's sold for who knows how much more,
Billions.
more money than any of us in this room have probably combined. And
Billions? Yes, I would.
That's a
Good
safe
guess.
assumption.
About that, I mean, conglomerate man here might, like, you never know. But we did. But the interesting thing is that well over half the people that complete the entire, like, it's like 300 levels of Candy Crush never pay a dime. But that other 30% got there faster because they paid money, and that's enough to make the thing really valuable. So it's all a very voluntary thing, and it's that balancing act between always free, but you can pay for extra.
What was the one? Farmville? What was that called?
Farmville is one that's on, that's a Facebook game.
Right,
And similar, I mean, I don't follow the Facebook games as much as I do the mobile apps and the PC apps, but those are your major platforms. You also have consoles. Consoles don't really have a whole lot of free to play quite yet. They tend to be you just buy you try a free trial, or you buy a disc in the store, and so those aren't quite in that model yet. But even PC games will have free-to-play models where you download a game and you start playing and it's free, and you need never spend a dime on it. Everything that you would pay money for is optional and not required to enjoy the full extent of the game.
I mean, it's an interesting business model. You see it in other industries as well. But what gives me a little concern is the kids, because there are a lot of children that are involved in obviously playing video games. My 5-year-old was on the iPad the other day, and he's playing his Subway Surfer or whatever it was, and he came wandering up to me, and he'd hit some sort of button where it asked him to spend $2 on something else. It made me a little uneasy knowing that kids are out there accessing this content, and it makes me a little uneasy about the game and the model because children are involved.
Well, it is, but then you also have that there are protections in terms of, like, you can go to your son's iPad and you can set it. There are settings to say do not allow in-app purchases, right? And you also have to be hooked up to an iTunes account. So, or like on the iOS or the Play stores on Android, that sort of thing. So there are some protections in place there. You have to have an account, you have to have it hooked up to a credit card, those kinds of things. So it's not really going to be an accidental one so much.
So we're not going to have big bills at the end of the month.
Oh, you could.
Oh, yeah,
you
you're
could
right.
have big bills. And in the industry, they actually call people whales. Those are that's their term for the people that spend a lot of money on a game. I mean, I have a
Just like Las Vegas.
Well, yeah,
That's
Oh,
the
my.
it's probably the same term. I mean,
It
I
is the
have
same term.
I have a video game that I've played a lot of way more than I really want to talk about or even think about over the last several years, that I have spent hundreds of dollars on it. But when you do a comparison between different types of entertainment value per hour, like if you say, what's
would've
my
gone to a
spending
movie
for
or-
entertainment hour? Yeah, it's cheap. It's cheap entertainment. I don't know when we decided that $2 for a game that we play for even just 10 hours, which is fairly, that's a fairly reasonable amount of time to play one, that you would spend on one game like that.
Yeah.
I don't know where we got the idea that $2 was expensive.
Yeah.
For 10 hours of
You
entertainment.
go to an arcade for 3 minutes and you'd put in 50 cents or
Yeah,
$1.
going back to Dave and Buster's and
Or you buy it at-
White Flint, I could
The
I could
olden
drop
days.
$2
And
These
in
people
about.
hang out at urban centers.
Yeah, I could
Right,
I could
exactly.
do that in about 2 minutes. I think. Drop $2.
Well into the night.
We got about 5 seconds left. Any final thoughts?
One last thing is that these kinds of games and building on these platforms is something that every teenager should be looking at, because the tools to build them are also free, and this is a big part of the future of our economy.
And getting $2 a piece from millions of people makes you a millionaire
Yes.
very quickly in
Very,
the
very quickly.
Silicon Valley model.
That's right.
All right. Thanks a lot, Aaron.
You bet.
Merlyn, welcome back.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
It's good to we spoke about the day in the life last year.
We did.
And now we have, it's hard to believe it's already been a year.
Amazing how it goes.
Second annual. Tell us about what's going on.
So on April 22nd, this coming Tuesday, we are having our second annual Day in the Life of Montgomery County. And you may be familiar with other Day in the Life projects around the country, but they've really been around for decades. But this is kind of unique to the extent that you don't have to wait weeks, months for pictures to show up. They're happening actually in real time. So over a 24-hour period, we're asking the residents and people who work here in Montgomery County to contribute their photos or short videos about what's going on in their world, their workspace, their school, their home, what's happening in the world on April 22nd, and submitting to us here at mymcmedia.org for a Day in the Life.
How was participation last year?
We had almost 1,000 photographs on our very first year out. More than 10,000 people came to the website to check things out on that very day. So it was a good start, but I really want to do better here in 2014.
Well, I know last year I submitted one, and then like went to go find mine and browse through there, and a lot of really interesting things. But you just said something about video too. I don't recall
Right.
video from last year. Is that new for this year, or do we just not realize it?
I don't think you realized it though. We do we do encourage short
part of
videos as well. We figure most people will be doing photographs, and it's probably easier. But we definitely support video, short videos who want to contribute those as well.
What's
You bet.
short?
What's short? 15, 20 seconds, 25 seconds, something like that. Less than 30 seconds would be great. We don't want to tear up the servers on that day. So
Well, a triple vine, I guess, is what we could call
there
it.
you go.
Yeah.
Right.
Is this archived so people can go to it later on
Yes,
as
and
well?
in fact, if you went onto the website today, you would actually see content from last year. We have last year's content that's been up there for the months and the event, so you can go back and take a look at what was contributed to. But it definitely was an interesting look at the county.
This is fascinating. I'd mentioned to you before that my son and I were traveling abroad when Ridley Scott had put out a summons, in a way, saying, let's do this thing around the world in a day in the life. And just asking mundane questions, and sometimes asking the mundane questions of someone
Right.
happen to open up whole new frontiers. So I wonder if people are going to take the time too to look at what we think is the mundane, because maybe in 30 years what we think is the mundane will be very interesting to look back.
Before you talk about mundane, let's raise something that's not mundane, and that's the website, so people can learn all about this. Where can
Right.
people go?
So our web address is mymcmedia.org, and Day in the Life content is posted up there. So take a look, click the link, and take the information about what the requirements are for submitting. But it's very easy. Just take a photo, send it. You can email it to us or send us on Twitter, and check in seconds later. It'll be posted to the website.
Now, JaLynn raises one way to go about this, asking the mundane questions of somebody else. What are some thoughts that you have from last year?
The more interesting thing is that we don't take the opportunity to kind of look at our county, to really step back and take a look at the incredible diversity that we have here. We're an enormous county in terms of geography, in terms of population, in terms of diversity, cultures of all kinds. And I think from the west, east, north, and south, I want to see content coming in from all corners. We have a lot of stuff. We hear about Bethesda and Potomac and Silver Spring and Rockville all the time. But what about Ashton? What about Poolsville? What about Mount Airy? Some of these other communities that are out there. So we're hoping everybody from every corner in the county contributes.
I think this is a fabulous marketing tool for Montgomery County. We're talking about destination branding, which is very big national trend. Every community wants to differentiate themselves. And this could be a fabulous marketing tool to make our own residents and businesses feel great about the county's assets. And
We
the
should
market
start a
too.
task force.
That's not what we need. We should just start
And nighttime activities.
promoting. Yeah.
Mr.
So
Overton, the
I'm wondering
libertarian
what
here.
kind of traffic, online traffic you get from outside people, outside of Montgomery County looking
That's a
at
good
this,
question.
you know?
I don't know the answer to
Or
that.
are you partnering
question.
with certain, like a conference and visitors bureau whose name is going
We
to
are
change
reaching out
over,
to
you know,
almost every
to-
organization in the
right.
county, nonprofits, NGOs, other organizations in the county to say, promote what's going on in your world on this day. So again, we're looking for great diversity on April 22nd.
Merlyn, you know what I'm hearing right here? This is fantastic. Is a chance, an interplay between Montgomery Community Media and the county executive's office, and I'm sure the council, I'm sure
position and
everybody.
brand Montgomery
Let's.
County.
Why don't we do that? I
Yes.
mean, afterwards,
That's a great
get
idea.
together, because I think that why be redundant? I mean, this is a great thing going on with MCM,
Right.
and showing why Montgomery Community Media is so important and the lifeblood of the entire community, and why Montgomery Community Media continues to need to be supported
Well
to the
said.
fullest extent possible.
Well, we have a great place for it in terms of this county, because it is a very highly technological area. And one of the things that I know that in the teaching that I do over at Wheaton High School is all my students, they have smartphones, right? And you can make a video and have it posted on places like YouTube within like literally minutes. We've incorporated into instruction there that a recent book that they read, the author requested feedback. We did it through videos,
Terrific.
built on those phones. We should send them there.
30 seconds left. Schools. You want to get to the remote areas. What a great thing. Every school has got announcements in the morning. Hopefully they'll be making announcements on that 22nd.
Absolutely. So we're reaching out to all the jurisdictions to let them know that everyone can participate. It's so easy, as Aaron was saying. Technology's made this project possible.
That's great. That's great. Well, I'm looking forward to hearing all about it.
Thank you.
I hope it's not going to be another year.
Absolutely. Thanks, Don.
You all, thank you very much for joining me for today's show. And thank all of you in the viewing audience for joining us for this week's edition of Montgomery Week in Review. I'm Don Mooers. Please join us next week at this very same time.